4. Welcome inside where it's warm. Welcome inside where it's warm. Today will be a joyful day, and you rejoice and
Good morning and welcome to UUCC, the Unitarian Universalist Church of Canandaigua. We are a group of spiritual freethinkers who gather to celebrate life, build community, and better the world. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. I'm Michelle Chapla with an old name tag, your worship associate for this morning, and our service will be led by Reverend AJ Van Tine from First Unitarian in Rochester. Welcome. This service is also being live streamed to our YouTube channel. We will plan on continuing with hybrid worship services throughout the church year, so you can join us each week here in person on Zoom or later on YouTube if you prefer. If this is your first visit, welcome. We invite you to sign the visitor's book in the entryway. And whether it's your first visit or your 100th, we are glad you came. I have a few announcements to share with you today. Please wear a mask. Masks are available to anyone who forgot one. RE and child care today will be provided this morning by Laura Wink and Kaya Mells. We will be collecting the cards for joys and sorrows after our first hymn. Please fill them out or type them into the chat box on Zoom if you have something you'd like to share. Are there any other announcements today?
We have a project with Justice for Migrant Families in Buffalo to fill dignity bags for people who are being released from detention from the Batavia Detention Center. We have 9 bags that we're filling, and we're doing well with getting the materials together for that. We still need 6 small reusable water bottles and combs and 3 small shampoos. And we need 6 $20 bills. So that's all we need to fill it up. And we'll be actually packing those bags after church next Sunday. Thanks a lot.
And today.
Oh, wait, well.
And today available.
Yeah, well, we'll finish them next week.
Yeah, finish
Thanks.
next week. Yeah.
I just wanted to remind everybody, mostly the remote people, that today we are doing the bake sale. If you are remote and want to participate, please put a note in the chat and we will make that happen and find someone to deliver your goods for you. In this week of Thanksgiving, we ask that you keep both thanks and giving in mind and donate what you feel would be appropriate. And finally, if you want to participate, don't really need any baked goods because maybe you're traveling or don't eat sweets. I don't know why you wouldn't need baked goods. But in any case, let me know and we can arrange to have it sent to someone who is alone or who needs extra community support. So thank you.
And also, we are putting an order in to the UUA bookstore on 11/28 for quality. To qualify for free shipping, you can look at the store at uuabookstore.org and email admin@canandaiguauu.org to place an order of books.
And there's still plenty of room if people would like to sing with the holiday choir. We're going to rehearse on Sunday, December 4th, Sunday the 11th, and Sunday the 18th, and then we'll sing at the service on the 18th. So please let me know if you're interested in singing, and yes, hope to hear all of you.
As we prepare to be fully together, I remind you to silence your phones and devices. We now enter a space of worship. I invite you to join with me in our chalice lighting words as the flame is lit. We gather this hour as people of faith with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning, in celebration of the life we share together.
Good morning. It's wonderful to be with you again. Our opening words this morning are from Reverend Margaret Weiss. A small bird's nest is held in a human hand. Come into this place with your whole self, the parts that are raw and exposed, the part that is beaming with joy, the part that is seeking the truth, the new, the possibility. Come into this place, open your heart, lay down your burden, lift up your hope for something new to happen. Come into this place with fellow travelers on the journey, some faces new and others familiar, and all welcoming you here, now, to this moment. Come, let us worship together and let us sing together opening hymn number 1008 in the Teal hymnal, When Our Heart is in a Holy Place.
When our heart is in a holy place,
We are a community that holds one another in our celebrations, in our pain. We welcome you to share your joys and sorrows by writing them down on the card you found on your chair and placing it in the basket when it comes by you, or typing it in the chat box in Zoom. Please know that whatever your heart is holding today, whether shared or not, we are with you.
I want to share with you this poem by Oklahoma poet Kaylin Hott. I asked God if it was okay to be melodramatic, and she said yes. I asked her if it was okay to be short, and she said it sure is. I asked her if I could wear nail polish or not wear nail polish, and she said, honey, she calls me that sometimes. She said, you can do just exactly what you want to. Thanks, God, I said. And is it even okay if I don't paragraph my letters? Sweet cakes, God said. Who knows where she picked that up? What I'm telling you is yes, yes, yes.
Now is the time in our service to join together in the spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts of both time and money support our church in its work. Each week, we would like to spotlight a group or a committee and thank them for their gift of time and invite others who are interested to join them in supporting our church and programs. This week, the group is the meditation group. It meets Tuesday evenings. People interested in finding out more can contact Scobie Beers, Ken Hutton, or Joan Barrand. One quarter of our plate collection for the harvest season goes to Habitat for Humanity, an organization that builds strength, stability, and self-reliance through shelter. You can give to this morning's offering by placing cash or a check in the basket as it comes around, or if you're joining us from home, by visiting canandaiguauu.org/connection/donate, or mail a check, an old-fashioned check to UUCC at 3024 Cooley Road, Canandaigua, New York, 14424. In either case, make a note that your gift is intended for today's offering. We now gratefully accept the offering. is the time I'm going to be sharing our joys and sorrows. Holding a big sorrow in our heart this morning is Dad with cancer and a friend with cancer. From our Reverend AJ, my heart is heavy holding the loss of those killed in Colorado Springs last night in yet another horrific attack in the LGBT community at a queer nightclub. May love in its fullest and queerest form prevail. Gigi's sharing, soon to be starting a new chapter in my life. We have sold our home and will be renting it through June. Then moving closer to our grandkids. Yay. So sad to leave. Happy birthday to Jeff and congratulations on a successful UUCC fundraiser with his ceramics. Yay. The joy of family visiting on this Thanksgiving week. I second and third that. And lastly, winter has arrived and we didn't get buried in any snow. Yeah. Yes, yes. Okay, I will now drop a stone for these and all the joys and sorrows that we hold left in the silence of our heart. Whatever is in your heart today, know that we are with you. At this time, if there are any children who would like childcare, please go downstairs. Kaya. We don't know, so.
Please join me in the spirit of meditation, reflection, and prayer as I offer this meditation from the Reverend Vanessa Southern. So much undone, so much to do, so much to heal in us and in the world, so much to acquire: a meal, a healthy body, a fit one, a lover, a job, a better job, proof we have and are enough, just around the corner of now. And up against it, the reality of all that falls short and the limits of today. We honor the limits. If your body won't do what it used to, for right now, let it be enough. If your mind won't stop racing or can't think of the word, let it be enough. If you are here utterly alone and in despair, be all that here with us. If today you cannot sing because your throat hurts or you don't have the heart for music, be silent. The world won't stop spinning on her axis if you don't rise to all occasions today. Love won't cease to flow in your direction. Your heart won't stop beating. All hope won't be lost. You are part of the plan for this world's salvation. Of that, I have no doubt. The world needs its oceans of people striving to be good, to carry us to the shore of hope and wash fear from the beachheads and cleanse all wounds so they can heal. But oceans are big, and I'm sure there are parts that don't feel up to the task of the whole some days. Rest, if you must, then. Like the swimmer lying on her back who floats, or the hawk carried on cushions of air. Rest in pews made to hold weary lives in space carved out for the doing of nothing much but being. Perhaps then you will feel in your bones, in your weary heart, the aching, healing sense that this is enough, that we are enough. You are enough. even this is enough. For all these and the meditations of our hearts unspoken in this hour, I say amen and blessed be. I'd like to begin with a story that happened about a month ago in a Soul Matters group that I'm facilitating at First Unitarian. It's the story of a member in that group, but it fit the topic today and the seasonal theme of enough. I asked if I could use it in this sermon and received permission. So one morning, it's around 10 a.m. in the morning. This church member is sitting at home with her husband, scrolling through the internet, and came across a meme or an article or something online that said, what if you stopped, it said something along the lines of, what if you stopped saying, I don't have enough time for that, and instead started saying, I am not prioritizing that. Now, the intended idea of this original post is to say, oh, there's enough time, you're just not prioritizing whatever it is that you don't have time for. But this Soul Matters member, she had read it in a much more liberatory way. Don't have enough time for that? That's okay. I'm just not prioritizing that right now. And while this approach, I think, can be great for freeing one of, say, the chores that would be nice to get done, but aren't actually a high priority, she also began thinking about it in terms of self-improvement and growth. Of course, we're always trying to get better, to be better people, right? For many of us, that's a huge part of why we come to church. But she thought, well, what if I just didn't prioritize my self-improvement right now? What if I stagnate? That would be okay. I am already enough. I can imagine she felt a boon of relief and clarity at this moment. And at this point, hearing the story, when I heard it, I'm already thinking, well, this will preach. This is great. This is right on the theme of enough. But then, back in the story, she's sitting there in the morning looking at that. The phone rings. She picks it up. Hi, this is Reverend AJ. Are you still able to make it to that Soul Matters group that's having their first meeting right now? So now she has a choice. Does she show up late to this first meeting of the Soul Matters group, this opportunity to listen deeply and reflect spiritually, perhaps grow in spirit? Or does she say, that's okay. I can do the spiritual deepening with others in community another time, or maybe even never. I am enough as I am. either choice would be enough. She did choose to show up, of course. That's how I heard this story. And it's not a contradiction either. We can hold both I am enough and I can grow more. I can build deeper connections with my spiritual community. These are things, one of those both ands. We can hold both pieces of it. Whatever we are and do, whatever we prioritize or don't prioritize or mean to prioritize but fail to, we are enough. And this may sound like an obvious feel-good thing to say, especially in Unitarian Universalist circles, where it's an implication of our first principle, the inherent worth and dignity of every person. But I want us to try and appreciate this morning how radical an idea that really is. That human beings, as they are and as they come into the world, are enough. Consider the messages that say otherwise. Consider the messages of capitalism that try to break down our self-esteem so that we'll buy the new, amazing, fix-it-all thing. Consider the forces of polarization and extremism, which say those people over there, they aren't enough, and they're a threat to us having enough. Consider the dominant religious ideas that have said human beings aren't enough, not on their own, not without God. Saying no to those forces, to those messages, saying yes instead to the idea that you are, that I am, that they are, that we are all inherently enough. That is powerful. When I am able to reflect on this and really sink into it and feel its truth in my bones, I can feel that relief and release of stress, that release of the negativity towards myself. I'm opened to renewal and possibility. It's a powerful theology and a radical one. Radical enough that back 200 years ago in the 1820s, it was radical enough to split the standing order of congregations in Massachusetts, leading to the birth of the Unitarian movement in America, the Unitarian denomination. Prior to that period, the dominant religious institution in New England was the network of Congregationalist churches, the oldest of which were founded by the Puritan colonizers from Europe. For 200 years, they functioned stably enough, not going through any significant schisms or anything at the denominational or the larger level, at least. But all of that changed with the advent of Unitarian thinking. You would be forgiven, of course, for thinking that the primary concept that drove a wedge between the more progressive Unitarians and the more conservative Trinitarian Congregationalists was just that, the question of the Trinity or the unity of God, the question of whether Jesus was one part of a three-part God or a human being who perhaps reached moral perfection, but taught the truths of a single unitary God. I mean, it's right there in the name, Unitarian, Trinitarian. But in fact, what the Unitarians cared more about and what scandalized the Congregationalists more than the abandonment of the Trinity was the Unitarians' higher opinion of human moral and intellectual capacity. The idea that humans were enough on their own. It was the Unitarians' insistence on using reason to interpret Scripture, on rejecting the argument that the Bible contained contradictions that simply must be accepted as mysteries, rejecting the idea that a good and loving God would give humans a brain and a sacred text, and then ask them to ignore the understanding of their brain in interpreting that sacred text. Rejecting the idea that humans couldn't learn or improve themselves, being so inherently fallen and sinful and depraved. Rejecting the idea that humans aren't enough. In other words, it was the move away from the theology of John Calvin. So if you were raised in or familiar with certain Protestant denominations that follow Calvinistic teachings, you might have been taught a handy mnemonic device called TULIP for the 5 essential doctrines of Calvinism, each letter referring to one different doctrine. And while I personally have a great time railing against 4 out of those 5 doctrines, I will spare you my full rant this morning and focus just on the first letter T, which stands for the total depravity of the human soul. So this doctrine derives from the concept of original sin and basically says that humans are not enough, that they are so thoroughly marked by sin that they cannot choose God on their own but needs God's intervention, God's grace, to make them even capable of receiving God's salvation. So this theology was a problem for William Ellery Channing. He was the main articulator of Unitarian thought in the 1820s. Part of his problem was that by putting God as the only possible cause of human goodness meant that God had created these totally depraved, tortured creatures, and whoever wasn't given the grace to overcome sin and the evil that they did, well, that was now God's fault. God was allowing evil to happen. And also, when people hold this theology of total depravity, they can easily think, well, I guess I'm just totally depraved. I don't feel God's grace, so I guess I'm just an evil being. I guess I'm not enough. That, or it makes fanatics who are constantly seeking a radical transformation of the heart so that they will feel that they are enough, rather than doing the hard work of self-critique and self-improvement. So Calvinism says humans are not enough. God must do all the work of human development through grace. Channing says humans are enough, and God may help. There is a role there. But humans can and do use their moral intuition and their rational intelligence to learn, to improve, to do better, to overcome sin, one might even say. So I think it's important for us to claim this radical heritage. Heritage because it is not new. These ideas go back to early Unitarianism and even older theologies, as I've just described, but also radical because it remains a powerful countercultural force today. Claiming the inherent enoughness of all human beings means we can say no to capitalism. We don't need unfettered and exponential growth that destroys the environment and tends towards self-destruction. We can say no to xenophobia. We can say no to the polarization that says we are good, those people are bad. We can say yes instead to our own inherent enoughness. We can say yes to one another. And I'm not saying that these are necessarily easy things to do and to claim, but they are the liberatory messages derived from claiming our inherent enoughness. I do think it leads us to a more difficult question to wrestle with in this meditation. Consider, of course, the human capacity to err, to make mistakes, to cause harm, to do evil. All the reasons why John Calvin thought people were totally depraved. Consider the worst thing you've ever done. Consider the worst thing that anyone has ever done. It is radical, but no less true to say you are enough even though you did that. You are good and you are more than the worst thing you've ever done. It is radical to say humanity is enough. Humanity is more than the worst thing that it has done or that any one human has done to another living being or system. It's not easy to make this claim, but no less true. As much as the first principle of Unitarian Universalism is the one that people most often point to, yes, that, I believe that. It's also the one that I think Unitarian Universalists problematize the most, right? By which I mean, I hear from Unitarian Universalists, not constantly, but regularly, something like, well, that person or those people really challenge my affirmation of the inherent worth and dignity of every person. That historical villain, that human being who did so much evil and harm, they have inherent worth and dignity? I'm not so sure. How can I respect their inherent enoughness? So if you ever find yourself thinking along these lines, fear not, for I have to offer you this morning 2 handy UU life hacks, or theology hacks, if you will. The first one, when we say that we affirm and promote respect for the inherent worth and dignity of every person, it's important to remember that we don't mean that each individual UU must give deference to every person or idea or everything that they've done. We don't mean respect in the sense of honor or hold in high esteem. Rather, we mean respect in the sense of acknowledgement, acknowledging the sacred participation in this great thing called being that is alive within each and every person, even the most heinous and evil. Yes, Whoever you're thinking of, whatever exception is coming up in your mind, that person too. So this sense of the word respect doesn't mean the same as I respect the scientific opinion of the esteemed Dr. Science, or I respect the hard work my parents did to provide for me growing up. Rather, it's the respect of, I respect your right to privacy. I respect that you feel a certain way, even though I don't understand it. So in this sense, my response to that problematizing, when thinking about the truly evil person and how that may cause you to struggle with how you feel about that person, that is valid and legitimate. But it shouldn't actually cause any trouble with the idea of their inherent worth and dignity and respecting that. Because although there is a lot that a person can do to be unworthy of a great many things, to be undignified to the nth degree, we still affirm as people of faith that there is an inherent, unearned, indestructible worth and dignity to every human life, and we respect it. Or at least we try to. We are, of course, only human, and these principles of Unitarian Universalism that we strive towards are sometimes more aspirational than fully lived out. But that's where theology hack number 2 comes in, with much love to our Universalist heritage. Basically, this hack is if you find yourself having trouble with the first principle, and theology hack number 1 doesn't quite cut it, try taking this sentence I'm about to share and just translate it into your own theological framework. God loves everyone, and it's a good thing that God loves that person, so I don't have to. The idea here is everyone is enough in this very cosmic and ultimate sense, and we are all held in the great interdependent web of existence, held by the love of God, if that is your language. So it's okay if I individually don't have enough patience or grace for this person right here. Basically, I don't have to be able to see somebody's inherent enoughness to know that it is there. I suppose it's one of those things that takes faith. So that's another important part of affirming our first principle, is that we don't say that everyone has inherent worth and dignity because it has been empirically proven to us beyond a shadow of a doubt that every person has it. That would be such an impossible task. No, this is one of those foundational statements about reality that can't be scientifically or logically proven beyond question. So what is our reason as Unitarian Universalists? Well, one of the great beauties of our living tradition, I believe, is that we don't all need to have the same reason that we affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person. Some UUs will derive it from the idea that we are part of that larger interdependent web. Some will say it's because we are all born from the same ground of being, whether known as God or Gaia or mystery. Others might simply ask, how could we not? What's important, what we all share as Unitarian Universalists, is that we all say yes to being inherently enough. We say yes, yes, yes. God says yes, yes, yes. Even that person? Yes. Even me? Honey, yes. Even if you aren't growing, even if you are stagnating, even if you are struggling, and even with the worst thing that you have ever done, you are enough. Because we are all, each of us, enough.
How could anyone ever tell you
May you go forth saying yes to life, to one another, to your own self, for the simple but radical truth that we, each and all, are inherently enough. Please join me in our closing hymn, number 6 in the gray hymnal, Just as Long as I Have Breath.
Just as long as I have breath, I must answer yes to life. Though with pain I make my way, still with hope I meet each day. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to life. Just as long as vision lasts, I must answer yes to truth. In my dream and in my heart, always Daddy loses heart. If they ask what I did well, tell them I said yes to truth. Just as long as my heart beats, I must answer yes to love. There's a void that pierced me through, still I kept on loving you. If they ask what I did best, tell them I said yes to love.
Please join me in our words for extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.